Hello, welcome to Audrey's Variety Show, Movies and the Bible. And this evening I am going to be studying in Proverbs 23. And this time around, some words to ponder, or at least, well, really just one, is how do you feel about your parents and the wisdom and teaching and instruction which they give you? Uh, just something to think about before we get started. And as always, I'm going to be reading from the New King James Version of the Bible. And I pray that the Lord use me as an instrument of teaching and that He interject at any time to give me something to share and some insight, some deeper insight into His Word as we study. And away we go. Proverbs 23, verse 1. When you sit down to eat with the ruler, consider carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you are a man given to appetite. Do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Do not overwork to be rich, because of your understanding. Cease. Will you set your eyes on that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away like an eagle toward heaven. Do not eat bread of a miser, nor desire his delicacies. For he thinks, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. The morsel you have eaten, you will vomit up, and you waste your pleasant words. Do not speak of in hearing of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of your words. Do not remove the ancient landmark, nor enter into the fields of the fatherless, for the Redeemer is mighty, and he will please their cause against you. Apply your heart to instruction, and your words to knowledge. Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with the rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with the rod, and deliver his soul from hell. My son, if your heart is wise, my heart will rejoice indeed, I myself. Yes, my inmost being will rejoice when your lips speak right things. Do not let your heart envy sinners, but be zealous for the fear of the Lord all day. For surely there is a hereafter, and your hope will not be cut off. Hear, my son, and be wise, and guide your heart in the way. Do not mix your do not mix with winebibbers, or with gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will become to poverty, and drowsiness will clothe a man with rags. Listen to your father, who begot you, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Buy the truth, do not sell it. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. The father of the righteous will greatly rejoice, and when he begets a wise child, will delight in him. Let your father and your mother be glad, and let those who bore you rejoice. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes observe my ways. For a harlot is in a deep pit, and a seductress in a narrow well. She also lies in wait as for a victim, and increases the unfaithful among men. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has complaints? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? Those who linger along the wine, and those who go in search of mixed wine. Do not look on the wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it swirls around smoothly. At the last, it bites like a serpent, it stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things, and you will utter perverse things, and in your heart will utter perverse things. Yes, you will be like the ones who lie down in the midst of the sea, or like the one who lies at the top of the mast, saying, they have struck me, but I was not hurt. They have beaten me, but I did not feel it. When shall I wake that I might seek another drink? All right. That was Proverbs 23 in its entirety. So now we're going to go line upon line, verse upon verse, and see what we can see in the Bible. Okay. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but as always, feel free to read along, study along with me as I go through this. But verses 1 through 8. Um, when I was studying this, I just wrote down that consider those who have power over you, and like politicians, bosses, parents, whatever the case may be. And can you be easily influenced and bought? Because it says to put a knife to your own throat if you are someone who is essentially easily tempted, because you're going to have many offers and opportunities in life, but are those things going to tempt you to sin? And if you don't have any self-control, and you have are lacking in wisdom of God, you're most likely going to fall into temptation, and that temptation is going to lead to sin. And for like verse 4, where it says don't overwork to be rich, that one stood out to me because I have a tendency to overwork. And that's just me personally. I have a tendency to overwork. I used to be a workaholic and just be overly concerned with money and having money. But that's just me personally. But in verses 5 and 6, we see here that it's talking about uh, setting your eyes on that which it is not. Riches make themselves wings. So yeah, money is a tool to be used, and money can take you far, especially if you are using it wisely and have the right character. But essentially, a miser is just a penny pincher. Um, Someone who is very. It's very hard for them to come off of their money. It's very hard for them to give and give, you know, with joy, with a sense of just charity, be charitable to other people. You don't want them you don't really want them giving you anything anyway. Like they have let you go to a restaurant, or when you receive another service from someone else. How are they providing you that service? And something is going to go off in your mind, in your heart, that when they give you that service and they're kind of upset about it, mad about it, like I don't want you serving me anymore because you didn't have the right spirit behind what you're giving or what you're doing. Like there was a viral TikTok with these nurses complaining about um, them providing a service to in the labor delivery department, and like women have babies every day. Like a particular woman has a baby every day. No, maybe once or twice in her lifetime she has that experience. But these nurses, it's just a job to them, so they are online, spouting their grievances about this. And yeah, okay, and I think they got fired, but okay, yeah, I don't want you nursing me. If you feel that type of way, if you are doing a service, just for money's sake or just for name's sake, I really don't want you doing that service for me at all. And that's just kind of giving you a comparison. Um, Hopefully, that helps with understanding what it's talking about when it's talking about miser. Um, and it goes on to say, like, what's in his heart, so is that person. So yeah, you don't really want to accept things from people that have a hard time giving. You just don't. And you being thankful and gracious to them, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your words, because they really didn't want to give it in the first place. So you being thankful and grateful to them, while you're doing the right thing, is wasted on them because they didn't really want to give it to begin with. They just really feel obligated, nothing else. But moving on, verses 9 through 12. Um, we go back to Matthew 7 and 6, like where it's like talking about don't cast your pearls before swine. Like, do not, in verse 9 it says, do not speak in hearing of a fool, for they will despise the wisdom of your words. Those people who, when you're speaking wisdom and the wisdom of God, and those who scoff at it and call it stupid or whatever the case may be, they discount your wisdom. You discount what they're saying, what you're trying to say that will help them. Stop talking to them because they are not going to accept it. They are very set in their way of being a fool. And we're going to see here later why that is. But you're wasting your time on people that really don't want to hear God's wisdom because they're always going to find something wrong with it. They can't accept it. And there's a reason why they can't accept it. They can't accept God's wisdom. They're too bound up and wrapped up in the hardness of their heart caused by sin. But we'll get into that later. And then where it talks about in these next two verses, do not remove the ancient landmark and nor enter to the fields of the fatherless. All this is really saying is that God takes up for those without fathers, and He protects them and intercedes for them to provide them justice. That's really all that is saying. And I put the little princess here because this movie talks about a girl who loses her father seemingly, and is sent to a girl's home, and how she overcomes this trial in her life. Verses 13 through 18. Once again, a child without discipline and instruction um, of how to be wise is doomed for hell. They really are because they have no teaching. They've had nothing instilled in them to be a righteous and upstanding person for themselves or for society. And we see that a lot now, um, especially within the black community, of people just being out here wild and just ratchet, just acting like complete animals, just crazy. They have no self-respect. They have no wherewithal to be a better person or a better character. Um, like recently, there was a story with a young lady protesting a restaurant and showing up completely naked to this restaurant. And like, you're sitting against yourself, and what is the point of that? Someone failed this woman because there's no reason for you to throw a tantrum by ripping off your clothes like a 2-year old about about what you did or didn't get from a restaurant. But anyways, uh, that's essentially all that's talked about it. And we see more. We already pretty much covered this, so I don't want to spend up too much time on this. But Proverbs 13, 19, and 20. You can see more verses and more insight into this and raising your children. And in verse 17, where it says, "Do not let your heart envy sinners, but be zealous for the fear of the Lord all day." We are, and what that is saying is, you're going to see people who sinners and wicked people seemingly getting by and receiving rewards quickly for their misdeeds and for doing things the wrong way, the way in which God doesn't want you to do. But we already know that that time for them to have those things is short, and ultimately they are um going to be going to an eternal death, not an eternal life. Which is why you see here in verse 18, surely there is a hereafter, meaning, after this particular life, we face God's judgment, and, you know, that's it. And your hope will not be cut off. So that's essentially what it's saying. So it's better for you to live this life in fear and reverence of God and doing what He wants you to do to receive your rewards, an eternal life. And here I put Nanny McPhee um, for withholding correction and all of that. The story of Nanny McPhee, this is kind of like Mary Poppins, but in a different way. Like, these unruly children uh, get a nanny, and their ugliness is shown to them through the appearance of the nanny. The nanny appears very ugly and haggard, and it just reflects their unruly behavior. And when they start to do well and do well, um, the nanny becomes more beautiful as she guides them in correcting them in their wrong behavior. So I thought that would be a fitting tie-in. All right, verses 19 through 25. I know it might seem like there's a whole lot, but it's really stuff we've already covered. But here it's talking about being wary of alcoholics and gluttonous people because they lead to poverty. And like this is pretty much common sense. Um, but here we are again with this. Um, and also honor your parents and the wisdom of God that they give you because it's going to help you stay on the right path of life. And because the wisdom of God is more valuable than gold, because the wisdom that you're receiving, the right instruction that you're receiving, is going to give you the right pathway and lead you on the right track to eternal life, which is way more valuable than anything on earth. I think the hangover is self-explanatory, and the foolishness that goes on with being, gluttonous, greedy, and being a drunkenness. All right, verses 26 through 35. Steer clear of temptation; it leads to sin, and becoming impoverished, defiled, and death. Because when you fall into that temptation, your heart is going to become hardened, and you're going to become more accustomed and more comfortable with giving into your flesh and the pleasures of the wine, the pleasures of women, or all of that. And it's going to make your heart harder, and it's going to make it harder for you to hear and receive the goodness of God, which is what I was alluding to earlier when I was speaking earlier. Um, it becomes harder for you to revert back and be reformed the more you give in to sins. It's like tightening a noose around your neck. And you're going to start to reject any type of wisdom of God because you become very accustomed to whatever sin you're divulging in. And you're not going to see anything wrong with it anymore. Because when you see here in verse 29, it starts to ask you those questions. I like when you started divulging and indulging in these things, it becomes like, what's there to complain about? Like, sorry, I'm not sorry. I'm feeling good right now with my drink. I'm feeling good right now with, fornicating with this lady or whatever the case may be. It no longer becomes a question of, is this wrong? It just becomes, a gratification towards you. And, but at the same time, there's going to be an emptiness because you're going to have to keep, once you stop doing that thing, you feel that high, that pleasure, that pleasurable high that you feel from doing those things. It quickly goes away, and then you're right back wanting it again. So, and that's the kind of the danger of being tempted with sin, because it becomes something that if you don't have, if I don't have this feeling, what else is there? And you kind of forget the fact that God can fill up every void in your life. It becomes that. It kind of becomes like that without going all into that. But yeah, that was Proverbs 23. I know it's kind of short, sweet, to the point. And so, and in the summary, some things that can be highlighted is self control is the real key not to fall into temptation, and as well as having a grounded truth in God, which is why we do the Bible study. And be and listen to godly parents for wisdom, because they can help steer you towards the right way and the right thinking and the right path for your life. And Gluttony and drunkenness lead to poverty, as we saw here in the last couple of chapters. I'm sorry, verses. Which to me it seems like common sense, but when we fall into sin, things become a little less, common sense and more of what feels good to our flesh. It makes us make more wrong choices and decisions, and then we look up and wonder why our lives are destroyed. But what wise word did you take to heart today? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Be safe, be kind, be wise. Bye bye.